Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Mid Morning. All successful businesses start somewhere, and if you have a plan and a pitch, it could start in Starkville. The Center for Entrepreneurship and Outreach in the College of Business at Mississippi State is gearing up for Startup Summit 2025. The two-day event will feature business plan competitions. That's where contestants go head-to-head with their startup ideas and plans. This year, there will be 2 days of competitions, and here to tell us more about Startup 2025 and how you can participate is the director of the E-Center, Nick Pashos. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Hey, thank you for being here. This is so fascinating to me because if I was smart enough to be an entrepreneur, I would compete in this because this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And it's open to Mississippians on one day. So this is Mississippi made whatever.
Yep.
And then open to students the next day. So,
all nationally college students throughout the entire nation can apply.
wow. All right, so kind of talk a little bit about the Mississippi Made Day and kind of what happens during this Startup Summit?
Sure. So the Startup Summit is made up of 2 different days, right? So the first day we have the semifinalists for Mississippi Made competition. And this is about any Mississippi-based company startup can apply to it. The top prize is $10,000. It's a pitch session, so 5 minutes and then 5 minutes of Q&A. And so that'll take place, semifinalists on the 24th and the finalists on the 25th. And so this is co-sponsored with Innovate Mississippi and also the Mississippi Small Business Development Network. So they're getting together with MSU to produce this amazing opportunity for small businesses and startups that are within Mississippi.
That is fascinating. And one thing we talked about before the show started was the fact that it doesn't have to be a tangible item. You don't have to reinvent pens or anything like that. It can be technology based as well because, as you said, a business is a business.
Yeah, business is a business. So if you're making t-shirts, if you are creating the next biomedical engineering device, whatever it is, bring it over. We want to see them, we want to produce them, we want to create a bigger ecosystem for entrepreneurship and startups here. And it all starts with days like this.
And one other thing, talking to students also, and getting their minds rolling and thinking about how to develop a business and a business idea is also very important. Kind of talk about the student day that's open not just to Mississippi State students, but students across the country.
Yeah, so this is an opportunity for all student entrepreneurs, so undergraduate, graduate, part-time or full-time students can take part in it. You apply to it, again, 5-minute pitch session and 5-minute Q&A with our judges. And it's an opportunity to have cross-collaboration and collegiality with other student entrepreneurs. So people going through the same exact steps that our students are going through at MSU, people are going through it in California and wherever. And it's a nice opportunity for everyone to get together, compete against each other. And the largest prize is $30,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
30.
It's life-changing money, right? So
it is.
Absolutely.
And I was going to say, in addition to the money, also it is services that help these businesses really just get off the ground.
Yes, so during this competition, between the 2 of them, we are doing $100,000 in prizes and in-kind services. So Mississippi State University, our Center for Entrepreneurship, we have a couple of different resources in downtown Starkville, including the co-work space. It's a co-work opportunity where you can rent out a floating desk space for $100 or a private office space for $700. So one of the prizes for the top 3 teams from each competition, they will receive a 1-year membership to co-work, to have a floating desk space there, to start their business in Starkville if they so choose.
It is amazing to have those opportunities because that's one of the things that people initially struggle with is just getting started, getting off the ground.
Yeah, it's what we're trying to do is give people permission to start their business and giving them financial as well as physical resources to do that as well. We're also offering mentorship for all these companies that are coming through so that we can help them through their pitch competition before they actually pitch. It's also going to culminate on April 25th. So the top 3 teams from each business plan competition will be part of networking reception. So it'll start at 4 p.m. at the Mill in Starkville, and that'll have everybody from the community, investors, people interested in just watching, other entrepreneurs, students, everybody's welcome. It's free food and drink, and we'll also have an Audience Choice Award of $2,000. So they're going to watch six teams or startups pitch, and the audience will choose who receives an additional $2,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you can kind of come and hang out. There we go. We popped it back up. This is happening April 24th and 25th, McCool Hall on the MSU campus, the Mill Conference Center. You can see where to apply right there on your screen. All right, Nick, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We appreciate you stopping by, and something to look forward to. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. President Donald Trump recently warned of consequences for countries placing new tariffs on American-made goods. The announcement comes after the U.S. imposed 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports. In response, the European Union and Canada announced retaliatory tariffs of their own.
Tennessee is known for a couple things.
It's music, it's entertainment, and it's Tennessee whiskey.
Distilled spirits have long been the state's pride and joy. According to a Department of Agriculture report from 2022, Tennessee is the #1 exporter of distilled spirits, valued at over $800 million. But President Trump's imposed tariffs on several countries and subsequent retaliatory tariffs boil down to bad news for whiskey makers.
There's two ways it impacts distillers. I think it directly impacts those that are exporting to the impacted countries.
Rob Pinson, an attorney who represents at least 30 Tennessee distilleries, says major exporters like George Dickel or Jack Daniels may take the biggest hit. That's as Canadian officials ordered much of American whiskey off the shelves in response to tariffs last week, all of which is impacting sales. And smaller distilleries, they may struggle with tariffs in a different way as prices rise for raw materials.
When they buy products that might be coming from other countries like China, Mexico, Canada, Europe, like glass, I think a lot of the cork comes from Europe. So, the tariffs that we impose on those countries could make those items more expensive, right? Or harder to get because now they cost a lot more.
Even though companies will work to absorb the cost, Pinson says prices could rise for the customer down the line, although the tariffs may ultimately end up hurting workers the most.
It kind of trickles down to, the employees and then the farmers.
President Donald Trump said on Thursday that he would put a 200% wine tariff on all wines and other alcoholic products coming out of the European Union if the bloc did not remove its tariff on whiskey. The European Commission said on Wednesday that it will impose counter tariffs on $26 billion worth of U.S. goods from next month, ramping up a global trade war in response to blanket U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. The EU executive said, however, that it remained open to negotiations and considered higher tariffs in no one's interest. Trump raised the ante in a Truth Social post Thursday saying, quote, "The European Union, one of the most hostile and abusive taxing and tariffing authorities in the world, which was formed for the sole purpose of taking advantage of the United States, has just put a nasty 50% tariff on whiskey." With severe weather knocking on our door this weekend, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has lost hundreds of employees amid the Trump administration's effort to slash the federal workforce. Weather experts worry about how short staffing could impact the future of forecasting. Marlo Lundick reports from Wisconsin.
Whether it's sunny and 75, torrential downpours and flooding, or tornadoes or blizzards, it's all predicted by scientists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. In the 2024 fiscal year, NOAA accounted for just 0.1% of the total U.S. budget. Despite this, at least 600 forecasters with NOAA's National Weather Service lost their jobs at the end of February as part of the Trump administration's push to cut federal spending.
They're taking a meat axe to something that's already short-staffed. People are going to feel that effect immediately.
In a statement to Fox 11, 8th District Representative Tony Weed says, quote, "I recognize that these staffing changes are an ongoing and evolving situation. I will continue to actively monitor the impact this will have on the National Weather Service office in Green Bay and work with the Trump administration to ensure that their critical services continue, while also working to make our government more efficient." There are 5 NWS offices that cover the Badger State, 3 in Wisconsin itself and 2 in Minnesota.
When we make these kind of sloppy, not well thought out decisions about cutting government services, is we're putting people's lives in danger. And that's a serious, true statement. Lives are in danger now that were not in danger to the same degree just 2 months ago.
Fox 11 reached out to Representative Glenn Grothman and Senator Ron Johnson on Friday and again on Wednesday for comment on the cuts, but we never heard back. John Martin is an atmospheric and oceanic sciences professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He says the National Weather Service offices, which need to be staffed 24/7, were already short-staffed before the cuts. If divided evenly, those 600 job cuts equals 12 employees in Wisconsin.
So that's 4 people in each of the National Weather Service forecast office in our state no longer have a job. How can you possibly imagine that that office can work as efficiently in doing the job that it's supposed to do, warning citizens about weather threats, monitoring those threats, and giving up to the minute information and then sometimes shorter and medium range forecasts? It can't do the job by being short-staffed another 4 people.
Fewer employees at each of these offices means each remaining forecaster has less time to break down complicated atmospheric data, Martin says.
So that expert judgment phase is simply going to be shortcutted. And the consequence on days when there's really serious weather bearing down on a locale could be very serious.
The government cut mostly probationary jobs, but Martin says those employees are just as valuable as anyone else.
This group of students who are coming out now and in the current era and in the last 5 or 10 years and in the next 5 or 10 years have a set of skills that people like myself did not have when we graduated. And so cutting off these probationary employees who are the very front line of the new wave with brand new computer skills, brand new insights about the way the atmosphere works, is a really bad, it's like eating your seed corn. You don't want to do that. And that's what's happening.
With these cuts, the weather industry fears the government could be planning to privatize the National Weather Service. Martin says there's a particular issue with that. He says private companies have obligations to shareholders and their bottom line. For government agencies like the NWS, Martin says the one focus is to serve and protect the American people. Something to think about. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A world of entertainment and information sits at our fingertips. Our phones can quickly fill these quiet and sometimes dull moments, but maybe there are better options. Why do we get bored? It's a good question. Jeff Wagner explores some ways to overcome it.
Activities, stimulation, and plain old fun make boredom hard to find at the Minnesota Children's Museum in St. Paul. Alas.
You joke that one of your kids says everything's boring?
Everything is boring. Like, everything. It doesn't matter.
What does it mean to be bored?
You don't know what to do.
There is a pressure to entertain your kids as parents.
Why do we get bored?
Boredom actually is functional. It serves a purpose.
James Dankert is a cognitive neuroscience professor who has deeply researched boredom's impact on the brain.
Its function isn't there to make you bored. It's to push you into action to address whatever has caused the boredom in the first place and do something else, do something better.
When lockdowns hit during the COVID-19 pandemic, some tried their hand at baking sourdough bread. I picked up disc golfing, a hobby that now gets me outside every week, no matter the weather.
It doesn't do the hard work of telling you what you ought to do. It just tells you that you should do something.
Boredom can hit when we have nothing to do, like sitting in the waiting area at the DMV, but also when we're supposed to be engaged in something, like focusing on a lesson in the classroom. Either way, it activates a part of the brain that triggers daydreams, fantasies, or simply going over your to-do list.
I always have a million things I want to be doing.
How do you stop being bored?
I play a game. I play with my Q maze.
How would you suggest people overcome boredom?
Consider well, why am I bored right now? Because maybe you can change the circumstance. Maybe you can reframe it somehow.
If a task you're doing feels boring, like cleaning, add a personal challenge, like finishing the job in a certain amount of time. Taking deep breaths can help calm any restless feelings, and creating a list of goals, short and long term, can focus your thoughts in a productive way. If a parent has a bored kid, how should they assist them?
When the kid says I'm bored, underneath that is, and I want you to fix it for me.
Rather than give them suggestions, Dankert says encourage them to make their own list of boredom-busting ideas. The key is to make sure they're in control.
I have a picture on his play cupboard of lots of different activities he can do. So I say, go look at your activity board and see what you can do.
Today is National Pie Day. That's P-I as in the mathematical constant, not pie as in the dessert we all love. It's a day to celebrate math and science. A woman in Northern Virginia has been building an audience on TikTok by getting people, especially young people, to really dig science and math. Meet Kayla, the science girl.
This is a sub-basement.
This is Kala.
I built this around 10 years ago.
Showing us her basement.
I always wanted to expand it.
You may recognize her as...
It's your girl, Kala. Sometimes Kala, the science girl, based off of Bill Nye, the Science Guy.
That is, if you're one of the more than 600,000 followers she has on TikTok, a following she grew by digging.
We have all this.
Literally. She took us inside the tunnel she's been building under her Northern Virginia home since 2022.
It goes about 30 feet down the first tunnel.
But in 2024, after people complained, she had to stop.
They did give me a stop work order and are requiring an immediate evaluation by a professional engineer.
Well, she didn't give up, and last week she got these.
These are the approved building plans.
She says the town approved her plans to build a tunnel. Why a tunnel?
Because it is the most challenging and complex project that you can do. There's a lot of mathematics, there's a lot of engineering.
Which, by the way, her day job is in computer sciences. This is her passion. Right now, her permit only allows for the tunnel she's built so far, but she has hopes to expand.
My goal would be to go outside of the boundary of the house in the backyard and then just build like a little shelter.
Is it a fear thing that you want to build a shelter?
Not at all, just for fun.
While she's received her fair share of pushback on the project, it's the positive that keeps her going.
A few people said that they're going into engineering because of my content.
In many of her videos, she explains her process.
I felt that this was a good opportunity to inspire people about engineering.
And something else.
You could have given up so many times. You hit so many walls with this. Talk to me about why you didn't give up.
Because persistence is in my DNA.
Something she hopes will resonate with her youngest followers.
I've always been very open about sharing failures that occur along the way. Failure is a better teacher than success. When something goes wrong, that's a learning opportunity that we can use to grow.
Welcome back. In the world of music, vinyl has been enjoying a resurgence. Nearly 40 years after CDs overtook LPs in sales in the past 2 years, those tables have turned. You may think that all the production is done at big pressing plants. But in Minnesota, a homegrown operation is turning out new records to feed the growing appetite for vinyl.
The music you are listening to is courtesy of a Canadian band. And you might be surprised to learn that the record it's playing on was made just seconds before. You're creating a groove.
We're creating it, yeah, forming it.
Alex Stillman is a record presser with Auto X. They got their start during COVID when Alex's business partner, Sarah Pett, decided to give record pressing a spin.
My job at the time was non-existent because of COVID. So I sort of freaked out and wanted, just start another business.
She also saw a need in the Twin Cities.
When you're just an artist with no label and you're just making your first release, it was really hard to get in the door to make stuff like this.
So they got their hands on antique lathe machines, which groove music into a plastic disc.
And you're doing this with a machine that's about 80-some years old.
Yep.
They also got their hands on a more modern setup. The record pressing process begins with a machine called the extruder, which turns plastic into a pre-mold that looks like a hockey puck.
We call it a puck
or cake.
The puck then goes into the press for about 50 seconds. That's where a combination of water and steam put the music on the mold.
We would take it off here and put it on the trimmer. And then that's how you get a record.
This is all the excess trim from the records they've pressed, and it's all recycled to make future records.
A machine called the dinker adds the finishing touch. A hole in the record. The vinyl is then put in sleeves and shipped out. Auto Wax has done dozens of orders for all kinds of bands, some with names you can't forget.
Bobby Joe Abola and the Children McNuggets.
I wonder how they came up with that name. That's a heck of a name.
And it's a heck of a business. Alex and Sarah are musicians themselves. They believe records have come full circle, with younger generations now discovering a love for vinyl. It's a record renaissance they hope will play on.
There's a reason why, it's sustained for 90 years, because it just seems like a very human act to listen to music this way. It's like a book, like you want books to continue to exist.
In Minneapolis, with photojournalist Will Greiner, John Lordson, WCCO News.
AutoAx says it's unique because they make 12, 10, and 7-inch records. We'll be back. After 132 years, the final resting place of the steamer Western Reserve has been discovered in Lake Superior. The Great Lakes Shipwreck Historical Society used a side-scan sonar to make the initial discovery last summer. Further exploration with a remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, confirmed the identity of the shipwreck. The Western Reserve was an important ship in her time. She was one of the first all-steel vessels on the Great Lakes and was built to break cargo shipping records. Western Reserve was owned by millionaire Captain Peter G. Minch and considered one of the safest ships afloat. In August 1892, during a pleasure cruise, the ship ran into rough weather on Whitefish Bay and steamed into Lake Superior, where a gale overtook them. It broke up and sank. Only one crew member survived. What a find. All right, thanks so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great day.